Hey, welcome to the Local Marketing Beat, brought to you by Uberall, the location marketing platform. My name is Christian Hustle, and I will be your host. The Local Marketing Beat is all about helping location marketers at multi-location brands stay in the know on the hottest digital marketing trends. We'll surface the essential updates related to local digital marketing and ask the experts what they know, why it matters, and what it means for location marketers. So, what's the beat on location marketing this month? Let's get into it.
Today, we've got a renowned SEO in the industry, Greg Gifford. Welcome to the show, Greg.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I know you have great actionable insights for today that you want to share with the audience. We're also talking about Brighton SEO in the UK that you recently went, and that we're both attending Brighton SEO in San Diego. So I want to hear your feedback on that. I think it's going to be really interesting just to hear your expectations and kind of comparing it.
Sure.
Before we begin, though, can you tell me what was your last local search and why did you make the search?
Oh, geez. I think my last local search was probably last week. I was at Engage, the digital marketing conference in Portland, and we were looking for places to go eat dinner. And so I was doing searches, trying to find restaurants to go eat dinner and then figure out how to get to the place that we chose.
Nice. Did you find something good?
Yeah, it was excellent. It's
Awesome.
funny, we had like kind of a nicer dinner the night before at kind of a steakhouse kind of place, and we found this hole-in-the-wall little bar, and the food at the hole-in-the-wall little bar was better than the nice steakhouse.
You'll be surprised, right? So it sounds like reviews really, I guess, came through for you.
Yeah, it wasn't even really reviews. It was more, we needed to find something that we could walk to.
Okay.
So it was what's within walking distance. So we got to say, okay, let's figure 15-minute walk probably. So like about a half a mile, and what are our options? And it didn't really come down to reviews. It came more down to what was on the menu and what place we could walk into and not have a reservation.
Okay, that's good. I mean, everybody has their own criteria, right, when picking one. We had Uberallers come recently to Austin for another conference as well, and we were looking for restaurants. But in our case, it was more of like, what's that Austin original food that we can get, So we ended up driving like 15 minutes, so it's pretty far. But speaking about events, so you went to Brighton SEO UK. I know you met some Uberallers there as well, because we had a booth, and from what I hear, it was a great event. So did you come out across any surprising trends on the SEO industry or the search, or any insights that you can share with the audience?
I mean, this is going to sound bad. I didn't really go to any sessions other than the two that I was speaking in.
Okay.
I've been doing Brighton SEO twice a year for 10 and a half years now.
Oh, wow.
So I go over there a lot. And at this point, because I've been doing it for over a decade, I've got a lot of friends. Oh. And so this time around, I spoke in one session, and I was on a panel the next day in another session. Those are really the only two sessions I attended. Other than that, I kind of just hung out and talked to friends and hung out in the speaker room and talked to them. And so there wasn't really any like groundbreaking new information. I think the biggest thing, though, was something that I talked about, and that's that for the first time that I can remember, at least, Google has rolled something out in the UK before it's rolled something out anywhere else. And typically, Google's going to roll stuff out in North America first and then expand to the rest of the world. But Google started a couple of weeks before Brighton SEO, so like maybe a month ago, Google started displaying alerts on Google Business Profiles if businesses have been caught doing something shady with reviews. So we've seen two different alerts in the wild. One of them just simply says, hey, this business, warning, reviews have been removed from this business because of questionable, or I forget the wording, but basically they're saying, we've caught them doing some shady stuff with reviews, so we've pulled some reviews. Then the more extreme alert that we've seen is there's an alert that pops up that says, this business has been engaged in fraudulent review practices, so reviews are turned off for this business for a period of time. I think that's a pretty big update, because if Google's rolled it out in the UK first, it's pretty likely at the scale, I mean, it's across the entire UK, it's pretty likely that's coming to the rest of the world. And it kind of makes sense because in the US, the FTC just updated the laws around reviews and fake reviews and reviews from friends and family members and fake social signals and all of these things. So it kind of aligns with these FTC laws. And Google, I know, is really trying to cut back on the spammers and the fake reviews. So I think that's kind of the most shocking thing that came out of it.
Right.
I know it's not really the best answer because it was from my own session, but, you know, that's what I get for not attending more sessions.
No, fair enough. And for those of you listening to us, I actually talked about the FTC laws and regulations updated in a recent short episode in our YouTube channel. So if you want to go check that out and learn more about that. But what I wanted to say was I actually have a very, just kind of context here. Me and my wife, we run some nail salons, and there's one that we have been struggling with rankings on Google Maps because one of the salons, it's literally a few blocks away, they started paying back $5 per review to each customer. And so all of us, all nail salons in the area, we're at 200 to 300 reviews. These guys are at 1,200 reviews.
Yeah.
So they are, it's just, yeah. I mean, and our hands are tied. Is like, we hear it from customers telling us, but I don't have proof, right? It's like, they didn't post about it. It's not on their website. So it was just, you know, vocal, but I'm glad that there's something happening because it really hurts, right? Like these guys are all ranking in our address. Yeah, it's not fair at all. So
well, and it's not realistic either, because when you're going to look for a business for whatever solution to whatever problem you have, whether you're finding a restaurant or a nail salon or a doctor or a plumber or a lawyer or whatever, people kind of want to trust those reviews. And when you have businesses that are just paying, here, I'll pay you $5 or give you a discount or whatever, not only is that against federal law, it's against Google's rules, but it's really tough to enforce because, like you said, if you don't have physical proof that you can show to Google to say that they're doing this, it's kind of tough to make your case. And then you end up with somebody just blowing everybody else out of the water. Now, it does kind of work in your favor sometimes that if all the nail salons in your area are at 200 to 300 reviews and these guys are at like 1,200, they're thinking that's going to make everybody go, oh, I want to go to those guys. But once you get to like 3, 4, 5 times the number of reviews of everybody else in town, typically people kind of don't trust that. Because if you're looking for a nail salon and everybody in town is at 200 to 250 and this guy's at 1,200, you're not going to go, oh, this guy must be so much better. You're immediately going to think, oh, this guy's just cheating and these reviews are fake. Yeah. Even if you don't do SEO and you're not in marketing, just the nature of it's so far past the average of everyone else, you don't trust it anymore.
It's crazy. Obviously, great takeaways. I think it's good that we're going to keep an eye on. I saw screenshots. I didn't know it was just rolled out in the UK, but I saw those screenshots of like this, you know, reviews were removed, things like that. Yeah. I'm going to keep an eye on the North America side. Now, what's your anticipation for Brighton SEO USA? I know you've been before.
I'm psyched, man. I love like Brighton SEO in general. It's my favorite conference series of everything. And I do a lot of conferences. I've cut back a lot this year, but 2 years ago, I spoke at 32 conferences. So I'm all over the world at a lot of different places. And I just love Brighton SEO. It's really well organized. They put a lot of effort into making it an amazing experience for attendees and speakers and sponsors. And a lot of conferences don't do that. They just care about the educational track and it's a bad experience for the vendors, or they care more about the vendors than they care about the educational track, or whatever it would be. And Brighton does a really great job of equally balancing all sides and putting on a great event every time. And then they rolled it out into the United States the first time last year, a year ago. And it was stellar. Like they weren't even expecting that many people, and they had more people show up than they kind of expected, because they do have kind of a section of tickets where it's a lottery and you can just apply for the lottery. And if you get picked, you get a free ticket, which is really cool.
That is.
But in the UK, you know, you didn't pay for the ticket. If something you apply for a ticket and you get one, and 6 months later, if something comes up, you're like, oh, well, no big deal. I didn't buy the ticket. It's not like you spent a couple $100. they were expecting the same kind of behavior in the US, and in the US, pretty much everybody that got a free ticket showed up. So they were kind of expecting a drop off, and then it was just more people. But it's a stellar conference. I think it's already, last year, it was at that point, even though it was the first time, already the biggest SEO conference in North America. And then this year, they're going to double what they had last year. So I'm excited. It's going to be great to see a lot of speaker friends. It's a well-done conference. It's going to be nice to go to San Diego this time of year. I'm pretty excited.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think we love our freebies in North America. I wouldn't pass on a free ticket either. Is there anything particular around topics, trends from anybody that's speaking there that you're looking forward to? What are your expectations there on the content side?
I always do. I've been doing it for 10 years. The local SEO training class the day before the conference. So Brighton has these kind of masterclass things like a lot of conferences do, where you pay extra to do an all-day course the day before. And I've been the local SEO guy for over a decade for Brighton SEO. And so when they brought it over here, they had me do it as well. So I'm always excited to do that because you know how it is. There's so much that goes into local SEO. And most of the time you get 30 or 40 minutes of a conference presentation at best to share helpful information. So it's cool when you've got an all day, 6-hour time frame to really dive in and talk about the nitty gritty details and the things that you wouldn't talk about in a normal presentation because you're trying to squeeze in as much as you can. And they may not be as influential, but all stacked together, there's still important things to cover. So I really like that a lot. There's a lot of sessions about AI and content. I've been kind of interested in that lately because it's been weird how, over the last year or two, all these AI tools have come out. And we've had ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini and all these things. And the first reaction, I think everybody was like, oh man, we could just use AI to write all of our content now.
Right.
And then it's kind of swung back in the other direction now, and people are like, oh yeah, no, AI content is crap. We don't want to use AI content. In fact, if you want to win in today's world, you need human written content, and you need to pay more for that content, so it's better content. So I've been interested to see the sessions lately at the last few conferences swinging back in the other direction, saying, oh, all right, hey, look, you can use it as like a shortcut for outlines and stuff, but you really shouldn't be using it to write content. I'm also always excited to see the new uses for AI. So like, I like to sit in on more of the like process oriented things where I'm less worried about, ChatGPT or whatever writing content for me, but I'm always interested to see the interesting ways that people are using AI to make their jobs more efficient.
Right.
And, Will Reynolds put something on LinkedIn like a month ago saying that, at Sear Interactive, they used to have their kind of in-house go-to person for Excel. So if you needed to do something in Excel or in Sheets and it was some crazy weird formula, you just go ask this person and they would tell you. And now he doesn't have to go to that person anymore because you can just ask ChatGPT. And I actually commented back and I was like, honestly, one of my favorite pastimes, because I'm a nerd, is I am that guy that everyone comes to for Excel stuff because I'm just an Excel nerd. I've just really gotten advanced over the years. And so for fun, when I've got spare time, sometimes I'll go into ChatGPT and I'll give it a prompt and say, here's the formula I want you to write. And it's almost always perfectly correct. Sometimes it's a little off, but I'm curious to see how ChatGPT structures the formula versus how I would have done it. Because obviously, if I'm asking the question, I in my head know what I would do. So it's like checking ChatGPT against what I would do and seeing if maybe it does something different that I wouldn't have thought of. I know that's like the nerdiest, like fun thing to do ever, but I don't know. I enjoy trying to like fool it and find errors,
That's awesome. That's a great way to, find your own use case for it, because that's really what it is, very flexible. Do you think that local marketers, right, not specifically SEO, but anybody that's doing local marketing should have concerns or should be more excited with these all new tools? Because obviously there's a lot of heat on this topic right now.
I think people should be concerned if the directive has come down either at the agency level or if they're in-house to use AI to write content. I think AI is still not there. Will it get there? Sure. Is it better than it was a year ago? Sure, but it's not there yet. I think that's the scary part. I think there was a lot of doom and gloom at the beginning of people saying, oh my gosh, AI is coming for our jobs. It's not. Maybe someday, but
Right.
for the foreseeable future right now, as far as we know, you still need that human brain, and the AI is just an extra tool in your tool belt. I look at AI more as like, you've got Uberall, you've got Ahrefs, you've got SEMrush, you've got these different software tools, ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever it is that you're using, or Dolly or Midjourney or whatever the tool is. It's just another tool in your Batman tool belt. It's not a replacement for your job.
I agree. And especially I've been testing a lot, just like you, I'm very curious, right? So I'm testing a bunch of tools and trying to figure out, I mean, from day one, playing with ChatGPT prompts, and I see tools getting better when they're laser focused in one thing, right? Like it's not the ChatGPT that does it all. It's like this tool only does this thing and it does it really well.
Exactly. Because if you try to be too broad, I mean, I guess they're trying to be broad because they want to try to sell their tool to as many people as possible. But like you said, it's never as effective as a tool that says, I'm going to do this one thing and be super awesome at this one specific thing. And that's the interesting thing now is you've got these, I was at SMX Berlin like a month ago, and Dan Petrovic was showing us some stuff that he had built himself, that he coded himself, and he's not a dev. There are AI tools out there now where you can give a conversational prompt and it writes all the code in the back end for you. That stuff's amazing, man. Like I'm going to start playing with that stuff. And that now becomes, you want to build your own monitoring tool for your Google Business Profile, or you want to build a tool to do Google Posts, or you want to do anything with any API that's out there, you can start to kind of build your own tools using these AI tools that help you code, and you don't have to go get a dev to do it or have your dev team divert resources over to build your tool for whatever cool idea you have. Maybe you want to have them polish it up when it's done, but I think it's kind of leveling the playing field for a lot of people. Now, those freelancers that didn't have the backing of a massive in-house team and budget, or even the backing of an agency with multiple, thought leaders and product experts, now that individual can still do really quality work. Or agencies that are smaller that don't have a massive dev team can still build their own internal tools, or still, take APIs and connect them together in interesting ways. So I think I think people have gotten over the initial shock and fear. And I think it's evolved more into now it's just this exciting time where we can do stuff we've never been able to do before. And AI is allowing us to do that stuff. So it's more changing your job than replacing your job.
Yeah, no, and that's valid. I think we've all went through that. I mean, I remember when Google AI overviews were announced, it's like, is that going to just completely kill SEO the way they announced it, right, 2 years ago? And then once I started seeing it in action, it's like, oh no, but we still have time to continue doing what we do.
Yeah, it's just like when featured snippets first came out, everybody was like, oh my God, it's going to be the death of SEO and we're taking all our traffic away. And like, no, it wasn't.
I mean, featured snippets became like one of my favorite things in the world.
Yeah.
Several years. Yeah. Now, we're talking about geeking out, right? Like building your own solutions. I think from what we hear on our side, on the overall side from clients, it's the complication and challenges with attributing revenue to local SEO efforts. I mean, it's always been there. I see it firsthand. That's why Uberall is leading with a new practice called local performance optimization, calling it LPO. But I am wondering and curious if you have any advice for businesses that are listening to us, whether it's a mom and pop or a large franchise, that are trying to track ROI to local SEO. What can you give us there? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake that most people make, and I think this is on agency and freelance side too, but it's really more on the business owner side of people that can very easily access a lot of information about SEO and what's important, but they don't have the time or capacity to actually do any of these things. So they'll pick one or two elements and just do that and hope that helps. But a lot of businesses gravitate towards using rank tracking as a metric for success. And they don't understand the inherent flaws with local rank tracking. And even at a high level, how just because you rank for a term doesn't mean you're selling more stuff. And ultimately, what it all comes down to is businesses do marketing, whether it's traditional or digital marketing or specifically SEO, you're doing marketing so that you can grow your business and sell more stuff. So tracking something like rankings seems easy because you go, oh, well, now I rank number one for this phrase, but ranking number one for that phrase doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get more traffic or you're going to get more lead or you're going to sell more stuff. So I think that's a big disconnect. A lot of businesses think that that's the way to judge success of SEO. And there's a lot of agencies that do that as well. And because they put that in their reports, those businesses, when they move on to other partners, expect that rank tracking, and that's how they judge success. So really, it's more about you've got to monitor your traffic in Google Analytics. If you're doing good SEO and you achieve greater visibility, that should result in an increase in organic traffic. It should result in an increase in organic leads, and it should result in an increase in overall leads, because the work that you do to optimize your site for the algorithm helps everything convert at a higher percentage. Your paid search traffic, your social traffic, your direct traffic, everything's going to convert better because of the optimizations that you've done. So you do want to look at overall leads as well. Not that organic traffic means more paid search leads, but your paid search leads or your social leads or your direct leads should convert at a higher percentage from the same amount of traffic that you have, because you've optimized the user experience on your site. And so ultimately, the easiest thing to do, track organic traffic, track organic leads, track total leads. If you have the ability to also connect sales into that and say, all right, cool, I got this much more traffic, so I got 50% more traffic, my leads went up by 30%, and my sales went up by 20%, then you could tie that even further and say, okay, I can now track this dollar amount increase of a 20% increase in sales over the last quarter, because these 20% increase in sales came from leads that converted on the site that we know came in from organic search. So it's not that hard to tie things together. It's just a lot of people don't put the effort in to do that.
Right. And I remember that this brings me back to a roofing company or a roofing client that I had years ago. I was dealing with the owner, and he was ranking number one. Traffic was there, leads were there, revenue was not. And we were doing call tracking at the time, so we were listening to recordings. Half of the calls were not being picked up. The other 25% were going to voicemail. And then the ones that were being picked up, they were rude, right? So it's like, well, all these efforts that you're doing and investing, but you're not really, your customer service is not great, right? Like, you need to step it up there.
Yeah.
So once you start tracking all these little things is when you start finding the holes in the system. Yeah. Now, I think that BrightonSEO, you're going to be talking about local link building strategies. Super curious to hear if you can give us a little bit of what is it that you're going to talk about. I'm a big link builder believer. That's kind of how I got involved in SEO to begin with. Still big believer now. So I'm super curious to hear why do you think it's so crucial for businesses, and give us a little bit of a teaser on what are you going to be talking about.
Yeah, so the local algorithm obviously is different than the traditional algorithm, but most people out there, even a lot of marketers, think that when you're doing local SEO, you're just doing regular SEO and tacking on your Google Business Profile, and they don't realize it's a completely different approach across the board. So basically, my presentation is going to be talking about how you need to either unlearn what you've learned about traditional link building or just ignore what you hear about traditional link building, and talk about the nuances and the things that are different with how the local algorithm operates. Like, no follow links will still have an effect, which they wouldn't in the traditional algorithm. And then I talk about tactics for how to build awesome links, because with local, you just want to get links built from websites and businesses in the same general vicinity. So I talk about some tactics there. And then for the last few minutes, I actually talk about the process, because part of the benefit of getting to see conferences all over the world and multiple conferences a month is I start to kind of see the patterns of what other people talk about. And anytime you see a link building presentation at a conference, it's one of two things. It's either an agency that's just bragging about some crazy campaign that they did and they're up there trying to get business,
Right.
or it's people that are trying to be helpful and they're sharing tactics, but all they're doing is sharing tactics and strategy. They're not actually talking about the day-to-day operations of what's the actual business process of how you should be conducting link building. So the first bit, I talk about the differences in local, then I talk about some tactics and strategies, and then the last, probably third, actually talk about the business side, the process side of how you should structure your teams, how you should conduct your campaigns, how you track your campaigns, what you should do process-wise for research and prospecting, and then outreach and acquisition. So I think it's a pretty comprehensive overview of how to reset your brain and do local link building the right way.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting. I mean, like I said, it's been doing it for a very long time, but I don't consider myself an expert. I don't consider, every time I feel like I know what I'm doing is when something changes. I was like, oh, I really don't know what I'm doing. It's like, I keep learning every day. Right. I hope everybody that's listening to us is doing it as well.
You kind of have to though, right? Like there's never really a point where you're like, I got it. I know SEO and I don't have to learn anymore. Things are always changing, and the people that have success in their career and have a long-term career in SEO are people that realize you do always have to keep learning. You do always have to keep up with what's going on and what's changing.
Absolutely. Now, when we're comparing the UK and the US local SEO scenes, are you seeing differences or major differences in the approaches of how things are being done? Or is there anything that you can share with our audience that businesses can learn that maybe they're doing the UK versus the US or vice versa?
I don't think there's really any big difference. I think, I mean, really, if I was going to say something, I think in North America, they're just a little bit more, I don't want to say advanced. I think there's a higher level of knowledge about local SEO in the US than there is in the UK and Europe. Not that people over there aren't as smart. I think local SEO has been a bigger deal and been more prevalent and more clearly different in North America for a longer period of time. And it's just kind of up and coming in the UK and Europe. Like it's always been there, but more and more people are realizing, hey, this is what I really should be doing. And there's a higher level of an aggressive approach in North America. People have more advanced knowledge because the basics don't move the needle as much. So they have to learn more. They have to be more aggressive. And I'm not saying they're cheating. They're just doing a lot more advanced things than what you have to do outside of North America to get results. You don't have to be that advanced outside of North America because there's just not much competition doing quality local SEO. Where like in the US, you're talking about attorneys. Attorneys are like the most advanced with local SEO because they've all been doing it for years, and you've got to really have all your T's crossed and your I's dotted and do everything perfectly to be able to move the needle, where you could do local SEO for an attorney in London and probably get results really quickly because everybody else isn't as aggressive.
That's true. That reminds me, I was born and raised in Mexico. So when I got into SEO, I said, it's going to be good for me to understand difficulty in Mexico, right? So I built this website. It was super dummy. I don't even remember. I think it was just a blog, and literally bought a $5 link, and it got it ranked for probably more than 3 years, number one. I never touched it again, and it was still, I had to take the website down because it was just getting a lot of spam. But
it ranked to a point where, you know, Mexico, great example. A lot of people are doing local SEO.
Right.
You can swing in and do some stuff that in the United States might seem really basic and really kind of low level, but it has a massive impact because the thing that people tend to forget, they're always chasing the algorithm. They're chasing the next shiny object. And I always like to remind people that at the most basic level, Google is just a pattern detection program. Like it's really advanced. But if you really think about what Google does, it just goes out and it classifies and identifies patterns. So when you're trying to get your site to show up more often in searches, you're optimizing your pattern so that you look more attractive and Google sees that clearly you're a better answer. When there's a whole lot of people doing that optimization of pattern, then it's harder to move the needle. But you look at Mexico or South America. I've been doing a lot of consulting with a company in Brazil lately. You can make a massive difference really quickly because some really simple thing that seems like SEO 101 basic level stuff is super advanced, and that's enough to make your pattern infinitely better than everyone else in that country because nobody else in that country is really doing advanced local SEO stuff yet.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I mean, we get our audiences all over the place, especially Europe. So curious to hear, drop it in the comments. Curious to hear what you guys are experiencing in your country. Now, in your travels and as we're talking about all these ranking factors, what's your take on just reviews in local SEO today?
I think reviews are an amazing tool. I think most people misinterpret the power of reviews. Kind of like I said earlier, you have business owners that hear about all of these different elements of things that they need to be doing to improve their visibility in search. And a lot of businesses are like, oh, reviews. I get customer reviews. That makes sense to my brain. And it also makes sense outside of the SEO side because obviously if I have more reviews and I have a better score, people will like me and they'll want to come do business with me. But then you get in situations like we talked about earlier with the nail salon where you have somebody that just doesn't, and it's unfortunate. Most people don't know where to go to look at what's allowed and what's not allowed either in Google or with FTC law. So you do have businesses that are like, oh, well, if I want more reviews and more reviews are going to help me rank better and more reviews are going to help me get more customers, why don't I just pay $5 to every customer and say, I'll give you $5 or I'll give you $10 off your next trip if you leave a review? Why would you think that there's anything wrong with that? But Google doesn't care. If you get caught, Google's going to slap you and you lose all your reviews. And that's unfortunate for business owners. And it's unfortunate you could break the law and be fined hundreds of thousands of dollars. But I think reviews are great, but I think people misinterpret the power of them. I help a lot on the Google Business Profile Community Forum, and we get questions all the time on the forum of people that are like, I reported this review because it's in violation. Like there was one yesterday that somebody said their review violated Google's terms because it's a harassing review because it said in the review that the business owner was a liar. And he's like, that's harassment. And I'm like, it's not harassment. Google's not going to take it down for that. And then they get all frustrated and they don't realize like, just because you tell Google this is harassment doesn't mean it's really harassment. Or just because you tell Google this person wasn't really a customer because I have all my customers' information saved, doesn't mean Google's going to take those reviews down. And people get really spun up because they may have been in business for 5, 6, 10 years and they've got a perfect 5.0 review score because they've had 5 reviews ever. And then they get one review that's a 3-star review or a 1-star review, and it drops them from 5 down to 4.6, and they lose their minds. And I think a lot of people lose the perspective of the fact that, sure, it's kind of an ego thing that you've got a perfect review score, but there have been tons of studies done multiple times over the years that show that the general public actually doesn't trust a perfect review score. You get fewer conversions if you have a 5.0. The sweet spot is really that 4.4 to 4.7 range. So again, I think it's more that people think this is the one thing that's going to matter for me. And they kind of lose perspective of the big picture and they don't even understand everything fully about reviews. But I think reviews are really powerful because you look at links. Do links really matter outside of SEO? Nah. Your Google Business Profile, it's pretty important, but the most important part of your business profile is probably your reviews. Your website. Do people really care if your website is on Sanity and it's a headless browser? Like, no. Do people even care if it's WordPress? No. Do people care if you've got the answers to the questions that they're asking on your site? Sure. So in my mind, the content on your site and your customer reviews are the most important things because they pull double duty. They affect how you show up in search results. So doing either one better results in better visibility, which results in more sales. But also doing either one better on the other side, where it doesn't matter for ranking, it helps with conversions.
Absolutely. And that's where the whole optimize for humans and not for bots started.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like you're doing both, right? Like you have to do both. Like you can't just do one or the other. But anyway, Greg, I mean, I could keep talking to you for 2 hours. I have so much to geek on, but I don't want to go 2 hours on this episode. So I just have one last question. Very curious. I know you do a lot of your presentations, if not all of them, are movie themed.
Yep.
So we were curious, if you had to pick one movie that best represents the world of SEO, what would it be and why?
Oh man, this is a tough question.
This is the toughest question of the whole episode.
It's one of the toughest questions I've ever been asked, because you're not doing the normal, hey, what's your favorite movie or what's the best movie in the last year? You want to know what movie best represents SEO. Give me a second. We need the Jeopardy.
Take your time.
Song
Take your time. Yeah.
I think The Godfather could work really well.
Okay.
Because you have the Don of the family that controls everything that happens in the family and gets to dictate and say, you do this or you die, and this is how things run. It's my way or the highway, and that's kind of like Google. So I think that's pretty applicable. I mean, we could go with like horror movies for all the crazy, scary stories and things that happen. But I think if you're going to put me on the spot, I think I would go with The Godfather. More than anything else. I'm probably going to say something else in 5 minutes and
just
my mind. But yeah, if I had to pick one, I think that's a good one for now.
Okay, I think that's a very solid example and a very good reasoning. But with that, again, thank you so much for your time. Know you're busy. Looking forward to meeting you later in October. Actually, this
in like 3 weeks,
live,
right?
In 3 weeks, by the time of this recording, not the time of the live. But yeah, so hopefully we get a chance to meet, and thank you so much for your time. How can people connect with you, find out more what you're doing, and stay in touch if they need help or want to reach out?
So I'm staying on the Twitter ship until it just completely dies. So I'm on Twitter, just at Greg Gifford. You can find me on LinkedIn, also just at Greg Gifford. And then the SearchLab website and blog is a great place to follow me. I have a weekly local SEO video series that's posted on our blog and all the SearchLab socials. So any of those, you want to shoot me a direct message, you can just email me at greg@searchlabdigital.com.
All right. With that, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button. Give it a like if you had or if you got value out of this episode. And you can stream it on YouTube, listen on Spotify. And to learn more about Uberall, visit Uberall.com. With that, I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.